one thing that we should do is potentially add a divider here on this card. We'll go look at Angular material and see if there's an example with a divider on it. If there's not, we'll look in the API. Got a card title, card subtitle, actions, and a footer. You know what? That probably, what we're doing now probably belongs in a footer. So we'll move it into the mat card footer. So instead of content, we're going to move this into the mat card footer. And now that it's in the footer, now it's right up against the left-hand side. So the first thing we should do is just get this to work. Get the add to work. You know, we'll stop playing around with the UI for a bit, but we'll make sure that we can add a button. So the first thing we want to do is on this input, we need a place to add something. So we will add a new to-do description. And this will equal an empty string for now. So when we come back to our component module in our input, we can now bind to an ng model. And this is going to bind to the new to-do description. I've got an extra quote in there. So now we've got it bound to something, but we really don't have a button. And one thing that would be nice is if we could make the button be part of the input. So a lot of times in UIs, you'll have a control sitting right here. So if that button was sitting right next to this input, it would, feel like it was part of the input. So let's see if we can do that with Angular material. Let's just add a button. And in material, there are a ton of buttons, but we just want a basic primary button. Maybe we'll do a flat. Or stroked primary. So we'll add a mat button. It'll be the primary button. So we're just going to use that. So let's go back, and after our input, we will add a button. It's going to be type equals button. And it is going to be a mat button. And oh, it's mat dash button. I was already doing it wrong, and color is primary. So mat dash button and color is primary. We will need a click handler, but add and need to add to the app module the mat button. So now we've got our mat button on the page. And look at our Learn Angular. Yeah, that's true. So we get ahead of ourselves and we break something. We'll add this click handler later. We definitely shouldn't have added the add button inside of the form group. That doesn't look good. Maybe if we add it as a suffix. So potentially to move that button up, if I just come in here and just add a mat suffix to that. Then go back to my browser. Yeah, now my add button. So we need to do some work here. I don't know. I don't necessarily like the add button there. Let's resolve that issue. There's a nice key combination that you can do really easily in Visual Studio Code. The Alt and down arrow will allow you to move lines of code up and down by a line. Yeah, the add button outside of that input looks a lot better. If I search for that purple green, can I find it? There it is. It's in project.json. Let's change that. So pink, blue, gray, and purple, green are dark, and indigo pink and deep purple amber are light. So we'll switch over to deep purple amber. It's not that I have anything against the against dark themes. I actually use dark themes quite a bit, but I find that for presenting, and especially in a browser, the light themes tend to look better. And because I changed that, I probably need to serve again. So now if I refresh this, we've got the ability to do stuff. We just don't, it doesn't do anything. One of the tricks was the click. So if we add a click event handler, and this click event handler is going to add new to do. We need to come back to the app components, and inside of here, we need to add a new function. So add new to do. And it's going to be a void. And for now, we're just going to push onto to-dos list.push. We're going to say done is false. And the description is going to be list.new to do description. So we're going to pull that from the property that we've bound, and then we need to clear that. We add a new to do. Hey, now we can add new stuff. So now we've got the ability to add new to-do items to our list. What would be nice is if we could hit enter. Right now I'm pressing the enter key and it's doing nothing. There are a couple ways to do that. We could have a form and submit the form, but the other thing we can do is on the input itself, we can add key up dot enter equals add new to do. Trying to show is how these pieces work together, because eventually the better way to do this is to have some sort of service that is monitoring everything, adding them. Because one thing right now, when we add these things to the array, by doing a push, and really this is something we should fix right now, but the to-do list probably should be this dot to-dos list, and then we add a new one. And the reason for that is that we want a new reference to the to-dos list, just for the change detection handling. The other thing that's not so good about what's going on right now is that there's no ID. And so we can't really do a track by on our ng4, which will make our rendering better and faster. Would also allow us to animate adding items to the array. But, we'll get there. Right now, we're just starting simple. And to be honest, this is the way I would typically build an application. I want to get things working. And then once they work, we're going to, start extracting things and making things better. But if you work in small pieces like this, then the benefit is that you get something that works and you know how it's supposed to work and how it's supposed to look and how it's supposed to feel. And then as that grows, you can extract better practices. But a lot of times as professionals and developers, we can get stuck in this idea that we need to do the best thing. And sometimes we get stuck in academic ideas of what's the best. And that can at times cause issues where we miss deadlines or things like that. And we need to be realistic, right? There's always a time trade-off. Okay, I went off on a tangent, but yeah. The enter key, yeah, we could just do this with the form. And the reason that I did the enter key this way was just to show that we could do it. If we go with the form route, then this button should be a type submit, and we would take the handler off here and add it to the form. And we can refactor that in the future. I want to show examples of refactoring. And so I'm intentionally doing things that we can change in the future because I want to show kind of the old, harder way of doing things and then going forward, showing better ways of doing that, right? If that makes sense. I'm intending for things to be simpler, easier, and then we'll eventually move up into more and more complicated things. Let's do it. Let's do this refactor. You convinced me. And so we will just add a form. So we'll move this into a form. Our form is going to have a submit action. And our submit action is going to be our add new to do. In this case, we don't need the keyup.enter. And we don't need the click handler on our button either, because we can make our button type submit. And thank you for the feedback. I appreciate the feedback, Obradores. And this is a good kind of reason why it's always better to work with a team and often have somebody PR your stuff, right? Even if you're developing by yourself, having somebody else look at your code, having somebody else talk through your code with you. I had it in my head that the keyup.enter was the right way to go. As I was trying to explain why it was the right way to go, I actually realized, hey, this is dumb. And so we're going to go use the form. The reason that the form is better is because in doing what I was doing, I was changing the way a browser behaves. Our submit function isn't working. Why isn't our submit function working? Let's go take a look. Yep, time for some error handling. Absolutely. So we've got the add new to do. We know that's being called. So we're adding a false this.new to do description. So this is bound. So when we look at this, let's see the behavior. See, this isn't, it's not clearing this out. And that's obviously not set. So one thing we can do is after the form, we can just do a new description. And we can do new to-do description. Let's just see if I type in there, if that updates. And then when I hit enter, what happens? So we've broken our binding. So my ng model is bound, but my form, it needs a name. That's my problem. That will solve it. That's the issue. If you're using ng model inside of a form, you have to provide a name on your input. If you don't provide a name, then the binding won't work. The other thing you can do is add an ng model options and add standalone equals true. The other thing we could do is ng model options. And inside of here, we can just set standalone true. And that will fix it for us too. I prefer just adding a name. It feels more like standard HTML, and it makes sure that our form works. So one thing you'll notice that we need to fix is that I can just add empty items. It's not good. We should be able to provide some feedback on that. Let's make sure that this this input fills up the bottom of our card and the add button. And we're going to do that with a little bit of CSS. What we'll do is we'll just add a div, and we'll just add a class of, we'll call this class new to do footer. We'll move these up into that div, and we will add a class to our map form field. And we'll just call this the to-do description. So we have the new to-do footer and then to-do's description. And in our SCSS, we're just going to add the new to-do footer. And we're going to make that just a display flex. And we're going to take our to-do description. And you know what, we can put this inside of here. And this one, we're just going to have flex grow equal to 1. And so what we've done is we've made the input itself take up as much space as possible, and the button's only going to take up as much space as it needs to. And then the text input's going to grow to be as big as it can. But we're right up against the sides again. So what we can do is go back to our new to-do footer, and we can just add padding. We'll do 0, and then we're going to do, I don't know, we'll do 1 rem. Yeah, 1 rem. That should be. So now what we've done is we've added some padding to the side of that div. This add button is now taking up the full size of that div too. which looks a little bit strange. We'll need to clean that up. But at least our input down here at the bottom gives us plenty of space to type in something long. Right. So, that grows, and it'll change size, obviously, with the size of the screen, which is good. So we're